And Kenny, how did you fall in love with and become the man whisperer that you are today?
Well, funny you should ask. I was, as far as everyone else was concerned, a good man. In actual fact, I was a surviving little boy, putting on a good act and being some sort of I was a survivor. And I realized that until I believe I'm a good man, and until there's space for me to exist, then it's just a blag, and I couldn't be a blag anymore. So I needed to unlearn the Oedipal complex, being a mummy's boy, etc., etc. And I needed to, I guess, live the truth, talk about the truth and live the truth. I had all sorts of mental health issues as well. So as I calmed myself and unlearned my mental health issues, I realized what I'd been surviving, and I slowly made space for myself and set myself free. And in those days, things like Tourette's, body dysmorphia, obsessive compulsive disorder, all of these things, they were hush-hush. No one talked about them, not manly, not polite, pretend it doesn't happen. And the only one that people could see is when I'd twitch and grunt. And I needed to unlearn all of that. So it was making space for me to exist. And then I realized with the people that were around me, I could actually help them out because I'd been through it. I kind of like plotted something. I kind of played Columbo, checked out the clues, looked at the bigger picture and thought, I need to get over that. I need to get out of Groundhog Day, out of the same relationships competing, and make space for a vulnerable, creative, powerful, passionate life.
And how you've turned that round, because you had quite a past, quite dramatic history, haven't you? Your story.
Yeah.
Can you briefly summarise that for us?
So I guess I'm a refugee from Uganda. My family were on the death list. The Secret Service were after us. We left my father there. So we went into hiding. We were cut off from all our friends, church, school, etc., etc. And to an extent, anyone who came into contact with us would be contaminated. So,
and which year would have been?
72, 1972. So we left my father in Uganda after we were hiding, and we were in refugee camps here. And it wasn't nice. There was a lot of racism. We didn't understand the other people in camps and what they were saying and doing. There was a lot of trauma. So it needed to be taken out somewhere. So beyond that, my father showed up and we moved to his refugee camp, which was a totally different kettle of fish, with a totally different man after everything he'd been through. And then we moved to a small town in South Wales, and it was a white, relatively poor, very loving, accepting, relatively Catholic community. So we had a good start. But it was starting from scratch. We didn't know how to keep warm or cook or clean or shop or what to do. We didn't know what chilblains were. It was just crazy. And in those days, 70s media was not kind to people of colour. Mental health issues weren't, there were so many things that I kind of like felt I need to hold this together and act normally. And as a family, we couldn't talk, because if one cracked, we might all crack. It was in survival. So I feel very lucky that I've got safe enough that I've been able to look at this, undo it, and start again. So much later in life, I finally did my childhood, I finally did my adolescence, and everything that I needed to do and everything that I needed to undo. And it's been a bit of a blag, a lot of it. Survival has been a horrible and lonely blag. But I feel very, very lucky to have been brought up in the countryside with community. That's taught me so much, and so much that I've been able to bring to London and across the world with the online groups. And I guess not just share awareness, but share the love.
You mention a lonely blag. I mean, don't we all do that? Men mostly, but women do it too, don't we?
We do. I can definitely say I've been guilty of it.
I mean, we live in a world where everything is so image conscious and picture dominant. Yeah. Everything is a lonely blag, I feel, even today.
And most people, I would say, are unaware that they're blagging and surviving. If it's the environment they were brought up in, or their way of staying in the pecking order and seeming to be okay to hold it together, then who can blame them? I really have learned that my first step is to accept who and what is going on. And the next thing is to respond to it rather than to react to it, because then things can change. And when I used to respond to everything, I would project my fears, my past, my history on everything and recreate the old. And much as it sounds strange, it was safe because I knew how to survive it. So I recreated my survival and I didn't exist. Now it's a different story.
The voice and the really empowered women. Kenny, why do men gaslight women?
Do you know,
no pressure.
Wonder whether it's
Could you speak for the whole of mankind right now and explain this phenomenon to us?
I wonder if it's both ways. I wonder if both men and women gaslight. And I also wonder whether people are aware of what they're doing. Because the way that I work is I want to know why about everything. And unless there's a why, there's going to be that repetitive script. And I find that with the men that I've worked with who have been gaslighted or who do repeat relationship issues, it's like, well, where did this come from? And it might sound strange working with men, but the fastest way for them to get to know where it comes from is to feel the feeling of fear or panic or whatever the trauma is, breathe into it and follow the feeling back, and in a split second they're generally back at the scene of the crime, which could be first girlfriend, it could be something from home, and it's not necessarily the same story, but it might be recreating the same panic, the same feeling, the same emptiness, and that's what needs to be dealt with in order to break the spell. So rather than it being about the relationship and the drama in hand, it's what's this really about? And that's where I guess they turned the dark shadow, the unknown, that really runs the show, into the gold shadow, which is I'm free, and now how can I create and how can I get really scary in my life by living beyond this and into vulnerability? Because I believe that men and women want to connect, want to grow in love, want to die in love, want to be vulnerable, and that's where it's at. And so often, people will create dramas to avoid the next step because I know the drama, I know how to survive the drama, this is too scary, I need to go, rather than I'm going to open up here. And I know that the more I open up, the more I risk pain. And if I do feel the pain, will I be able to survive it again?
So which issues are you seeing from the male population? So Oloni's mentioned obviously gaslighting from the female perspective. What are you seeing? What comes up again and reoccurs as a regular theme for men? Why do they come? What are they having problems with?
With a lot of them, they might... I'd say there are two extremes. There's the heartthrob extreme, who has maybe covered up by being muscly, sporty, indispensable, great dancer, clubber, you know, the kind of like the hero.
Yeah, all of my ex-boyfriends. What do we call him? What's the tag name for him?
Well, do you know, I would say that's boys. That's the boy club. That's unaware. It's surviving. God. And it needs to be popular.
Yeah.
It needs to be safe. And it's all about the pecking order.
Yeah.
It's unconscious. It's surviving. And very often it's all the bloke knows, because if he hasn't seen anything else, if he doesn't know how to be anything else, that's where he's going to be stuck. And sadly, that's where the oldest swingers in town come from, and it's not pretty. It's very lonely.
Yeah, the old man in the club. So do they come to you asking for advice and help?
Yeah, they're lonely.
And what are they saying? Yeah, they're saying they're lonely, aren't they?
How do I do me better? How do I fall in love and not feel alone or traumatized or just, you know, this instinct to run away? How can I be more available? And very sadly, a lot of these men say, yes, I'll go to clubs, I'll see women, etc., etc. All I really want is to be held, is to be accepted, is to be met. But if they don't know how, then who can blame them? And the other extreme is the mummy's boys, who were responsible for maybe the emotions in the family or their mother's issues, etc. And they will find women to save, to be safe, to nurture. And these are the ones that have problem with the friend zone and turning it into relationships. What very often happens is first marriage, heartthrob; second marriage, decent accountant that can make things safe and bring up the kids.
Someone who'll pay on the first date. I think if he's paying on the first date.
I asked someone at work this the other day. I was like, if we go out on a date, shouldn't I offer to pay at the end, or at least offer to pay half? And they looked horrified, and they went, no, if he's asked you out, he has to pay. And I said, yeah, but shouldn't I offer just to look good? Should I offer or not?
Do you know, I would say the intimacy opportunity here is, how are we going to do the bill? How are we going to share things? Do you expect me to pay? Do you want to pay? Are we going to prove something? Shall we split it? And enter into the intimacy of that conversation and find out where you're really coming from. Don't get into playing games.
So don't
pretend. Yeah, I was going to say that. Don't pretend.
Why not reach for your purse? Because it's like, it's going there.
I've
It's
done
not
that once,
thinking.
and he actually made me pay. I don't
So
like that.
that's assuming that you shouldn't have paid.
I shouldn't have.
What
My
about
mum
equality?
told me never to go out with him again.
Okay, what else? What else is a good
And
thing?
I think someone who's just good to people around him. So if his friends and family love him, then clearly I'm with a winner. So I want to be with someone that people love and people cherish. So I think that's a good one.
I think it's a red flag when you meet someone and they've got no close friends.
Yeah.
That's weird,
Then
right?
it's going to be
Yeah.
saving. I'm going to put all my eggs
Yeah.
in your basket and you're not going anywhere. Totally. But eye contact is a big one. How does it feel? Can they maintain eye contact? And are you meeting and dropping into a depth of reality, of curiosity? Or is it sales pitch after sales pitch after possible lie after exaggeration? That's insecure. That's a fraud. It can be nice for a little while, but, leave before dessert. Do you know, there's one thing here that's just screaming in my head, and that's the difference between a boy and a man. And I would say a boy, when he listens to his girlfriend, his partner, about what's going on during the day, and she's just debriefing, the boy will think, she's telling me because she wants me to fix it, and she wants me to save her, and she wants me to put it right. Meanwhile, she's thinking, why can't he just shut up and listen to me? He can't just be with me. So the men will be able to sit and realise that it's not necessarily pain. What I've learned to do is say to my wife, stop for one sec, I've just got one quick question. Are you telling me because you want me to fix it or because you want me to listen to you? And when she says, listen to me, it's like, what a relief, that was close. But that means that I need to deal with my own vulnerability, because if she's not happy or she's in pain, then I can't sit with my pain of her being in pain and have I failed and should I fix it and should I solve it? So the man can be with his emotions and with her emotions and sit with pain and sit with anxiety and sit with fear and let it pass like a rock. Hold the space and let it pass rather than run in like some
Tornado.
demented superhero.
But are we even allowed to say strong knight in armour, Kenny? Are they threatened by that? Do they not want to be strong knights in armour?
Do you know, so many do, and so many think, what's wrong with me because I'm not and I need to fix this. And for me, the difference between a man and a boy, in a nutshell, is a boy comes from am I? Am I safe? Am I popular? Am I going to be found out? Am I loved? Am I going to be humiliated? Is she going to reject me? It's handing power over. Where a man comes from I am. He knows who he is, he's in alignment with himself, he has boundaries, and boundaries I used to think were barriers of rejection, where boundaries are actually very, very intimate places to meet. And once there's a meeting, and that's where a man and a woman meet, then the merry dance of relationship and confusion and passion can begin.